The newest season of Last Chance U dropped on Friday, July 19th. And I lived through the JUCO life. And I absolutely loved the last 3 seasons of this series. For people that never knew the ins and the outs of college athletics, it is very insightful of the job. While this year, I really enjoyed it. And trust me, I watched all 8 episodes in a day. I enjoyed it. I will go over some things that I felt the series itself and the show flashed onto the ICC Pirates that wasn't in the last 3 years. Now, this list is just my own personal opinion, and it is from the least important that they showed to the most important and the most egregious thing that they showed this year that wasn't in the last 3 seasons. Let's go ahead and jump into it. The first thing on this list, and the one that is least important in retrospect, is the fact that the community didn't rally behind the Pirates. In this season, the college built a 700,000 turf practice field to make their team level with the rest of the Jayhawk Conference. The Jayhawk Conference practices on all turf fields, except for Independence. They had to practice on natural surface. So the college bought them a new practice field. The residents throughout the course of the season drifted from being with the school when they were winning to against the school by the end. The fact that the team lost and went 2 of 8 this year, combined with the residents wanting Independence to have more in-state recruits, saw the rift that is needed for both the community and the college to thrive in any of these small college towns. Something that's a little bit more important than the community, but not as important as some of the stuff that I'm going to cover on later on in this video, is the teachers' relationships with the students. In Seasons 1 and Seasons 2, we had Ms. Wagner, and in Season 3 and now in Season 4, we have Ms. Pinkard to show the relationships that the student athletes have with teachers and other people that aren't coaches. Let me also say that I understand that some of the teachers worry about concussions, because they truly are no joke, and that we only have one brain, and that we can't replace it very easily. One teacher in particular, in later part of this season, was going on about how they were sacrificing their bodies over an education, and that's true. And if you want to have that discussion, please feel free to have that discussion. And also, if you want to talk about people and student athletes getting paid to play, we can have that conversation too. I'm more than welcome to have that discussion with you anytime you like, because I have my own way to try to hopefully figure this out. But what some of these teachers have to understand is that athletics is the only way that some of these kids can get a higher education and not be doing what some of their friends are doing. I'm not saying that the teacher is wrong for her concerns, because those are her own opinion. But I also think that she has to realize that these kids wouldn't be sitting in your classroom learning what you're saying otherwise. It goes back to the community to an extent, and that's why I say it's a little bit more important, because you are in Kansas, and these residents in Independence want more Kansas kids in your schools. So to have more Kansas kids in the schools, you have to sacrifice the out-of-state kids. And taking that ability and taking that education away from some of the kids is not what you need. Before I start my next point, I do want to put an addendum to the last point I made. And that wasn't that the teacher was saying that the kids didn't deserve the college experience, because she was actually pushing for that. She was trying to get the kids to pay more attention into class. And for that, I respect her, and I agree with her 100%. Now, there are some other aspects that she made throughout the course of the series that I didn't necessarily agree on personally, but it's neither here nor there. And this next point is kind of the bridge between the first 2 points that I made in this video and the next 2 points that I made in this video, and that's why it's right here kind of in the middle, and that is the show as a whole. And again, I said it in the intro, and I'll say it again, and if you ask me 5 years from now, I'll say it then too. I love Last Chance U. It shows athletes that might have had problems that got recruited to the bigger name schools, and without burning a year of their precious eligibility, they have only one spot to turn, and that's JUCO. Plus, it helps the player get any kind of discipline problems that he might have had otherwise in his prior university. That being said, this year it seemed like them being on Last Chance U went to independent community colleges head as a collective. I mean, they had shirts with quotes printed out on it, for heaven's sake. And when Coach Brown was talking about, he pointed out multiple times that he's on national television and flashing that they were at the beginning of the series. And that's the biggest problem that they showed, with the kids having the big egos, thinking that they are bigger than the game of football. And I'm not talking about the trash talk, because, kids are going to say what kids say on the field, and that is to never be taken against their character. And I'm not doing that here. I'm talking about what happened off the field. And you can see that some of these kids and some of the people around town thought that they were God's gift to the earth. And sometimes, most of the time, that wasn't the case. It's not really a knock on the show, but like I said, it is the bridge to my last 2 points that I'm going to make in this video. Now we're getting into the real issue with what happened with ICC this year. To me, it seemed like some of the coaches gave up on the job when they saw the ship sinking. In 2 years that ICC was featured, the football had a massive turnover of new coaches, and they would be here 1 year and be on their merry way to another job. Now, how much of it was on the stress of the job and the coach that couldn't handle it personally, and how much of it was on JB, I don't know, and I couldn't say. But I do know that it's not great for the kids to see a turnover like that, when maybe the only reason they came to ICC or stayed at ICC was for that particular coach. And I really, really wanted to rag on the defensive coordinator more. But after sitting down and digesting all 8 episodes, I can understand that he was just trying to do what was best for his family. Now, with that being said, you don't tell a kid that you're trying to use him too. It's not a good look on you as a man and as a coach. I will say, though, I am very, very glad that he stayed on as the defensive coordinator after JB left. And he's still at Kansas, and I hope that he can sometime soon buy that couch and that bed that he and his wife have always dreamed of. And for that, I have massive amount of respect for Coach Martin. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, shall we? And again, let me start this by saying I loved Coach Jason Brown in Season 3. And I loved Buddy Stevens in Seasons 1 and Seasons 2. That being said, JB's attitude to some of his players was completely wrong and completely and utterly disgusting. You don't tell a player who just blacked out and couldn't move that if he wanted to get put on a stretcher and go home or walk it off. A pulled hammy isn't something that you can stick up or suck up and play through and not have serious damage later on. And before people before people say, oh, that's just old school, you can miss me with that, seriously. I know that there's a difference between playing hurt and playing injured. I've heard that enough times throughout my years as an athlete. Throughout the season, you are going to get bumps and bruises. That's just the nature of the game of football and any sport that you put your body through. That is what the trainer is there for, and that is what treatment is there for. These 2 things that I saw with KD going down with a serious, and I mean serious, concussion. He couldn't see. And for the quarterback to go down against Dodge City in the first game of the season, those are injuries. That's not playing hurt. Because the quarterback was probably hurt, and he played, and then he got injured. And that hurt him throughout the rest of the way. Those 2 things, like I said, they're injuries. If anyone thinks, Also, if anyone thinks that calling yourself a new leader of the Axis powers to a German student is not horrible and that you're not going to face backlash, you're insane. That's not old school. Cuss the player out, fine, because we all do it. But what happened to JB was not old school. That was him being a disgusting human being. And I lost all respect for him. As you can guess, I love the show very much. And those were the 5 things that Last Chance U uncovered in the last 2 years at Independence. This series has been great for JUCO football. And I hope they bring it back for a 5th season. As of right now, there's no confirmation that they will. Both schools, EMCC and Independence, showed us things that are vastly different and things that are similar, and I hope they continue to it next year. And I just wanted to thank all the players and coaches at EMCC and at Indy for allowing us to peek behind the curtains, if you will. And a big, big thanks to the NJCAA for allowing this as well. Here is hopefully that the show continues its success in the future and for everyone involved. Cheers. Loved your Last Chance U Season 4. Hope we can do it again next year.